Hi, welcome to If I Did a Show, we analyze and solve pure kerfuffle from a world not beyond. I'm your host, Lexi Auld, author of Seven Secret Sources Inspiration, a snappy guide for creative procrastinators. And joining me, as always, given Kid Nate's absence, John Nash, and Eugene S. Robinson from Oz.com, and author of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking. I'm afraid you get your ass kicked for asking. Collectively, MMA Pancholes.
Sorry, I'm distracted.
I thought it was some latency.
No,
Eugene,
I'm distracted, disdainful, I'm disheveled, and it's painful. Anyway, yes, sir.
you're the UFC.
I am the oopsie.
Does media coverage of Dana White's $1 million Sweet 16 bash, live and in public, if you will, require a PR spin for fighter pay problemos?
You know what? The fact that we thought that this was newsworthy, tweet-worthy, public-worthy at all means that we don't give a shit. We don't care. We don't care. This is the age of we do not give a fuck. You know, the thing is, remember that time when I got that belt when I won Grappler's Quest? I got one of those big dookie belts that fighters are always miming when they think they should get a title shot. I came, Brian, the guy who ran it, said, we ran out of them, so we're gonna have to mail you yours. And I got it at the post office, and I was like, opened it right there in the post office, and all the people were cheering in line. They were like, wear it, put it on, wear it, put it on. And I put it on, I wore it out. I was like, this is kind of assholes. And I go, well, wait a minute. If you have one, you understand. And if you don't, who cares? So I wore it out of the post office proudly. And then I realized that's where the oofsie is. If you got $1 million to drop on your son's party, you understand. And if you don't, who gives a fuck? This is sausage politics, also known as casino politics. We just don't care. First, it's the $60,000 sword. Then it's how much of a tip did he give the waitress? The $1,000 tip he gave the waitress. Then it was the compound in Vegas. This is a guy who when the tumbrils start rolling, straight down to the guillotine on Bastille Day with precisely guys like this, he'll be like Gaddafi's famous last words is they stuck a knife up his ass. What did I ever do to you guys? They really don't understand. You ever pull up next to somebody who's cut you off and you're just raging and you look at them and you just have to let it go because they have no idea. They don't know what they did wrong. In this instance, the question is it knowing or is it not knowing? And I have to say it's neither. It's just not caring. If I'm the oofsie here, I do not care. You don't like it? Go watch something else. Bye-bye.
Word. What about you, John?
Well, I kind of agree with Eugene is that you don't talk about it because no matter what, it's going to look bad for the UFC the more they bring it up. You just want it to sweep it under the rug and let it go because honestly, it's kind of vulgar to have $1 million birthday party for your 16-year-old kid. I remember the old days of the landed gentry, the aristocrats, they wouldn't, one of their things was modesty because they didn't want to rub the money into the peasants' faces. Yep. Otherwise, they'd be uprising with pitchforks, killing them. Let them eat cake is, a famous example of where this can lead to. I think the rest of the billionaire clubs should probably be calling Dana going, hey, calm it down. We don't need muscle-bound jiu-jitsu fighters leading the charge on the next Bastille Day. So that's it. It's vulgar. It's also, I feel bad for his son. Not only does it teach his son a bad lesson about getting anything you want in your life, but it also opens up his kid to ridicule and basically being despised by random strangers on the internet, all for something he had really nothing to do. He's 16. He might want it, but that's not.
Hey, you know what? P. Diddy's son seemed to bounce back well enough from his $1 million bash. So
that's true. But if I'm the UFC, if I'm Dana White, I don't talk about it. If Dana White gets egged into talking about it more, it's only going to hurt him. I mean, it's the one thing is it's always nice to see a group of fans rush to the defense of a billionaire who makes his money trying to keep the wages down of his employees as much as possible. The guys that you're actually paying to watch, they want to suppress the wages as much as possible. That's who their fandom's for, the billionaire.
And this also could be a diversionary tactic because the conversation right before this, you realize, was about Eskimo stuff.
Ooh. You're gone from talking about the brothers
Yeah.
fathers and sons.
Yes. Yes. Exactly right. I mean, really, keep in mind, nobody ferreted this out. This was something
Nobody
that he
what farted it out.
ferreted it
I
out.
know.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, it's not they chose to release this. Why would you choose to release this? Yeah, well, you want to switch the topic of conversation. Monkey says what? Huh? Yeah, exactly.
And that's why UFC, like, if you think about it, you have this $1 million birthday 16-year-old bash to distract people. I think the next thing is you need to have a $2 million bash for MMA Pancholes, right? Like, people would say, what the fuck? You gave $2 million to those guys? What? They'd be so confused. They'd be so flustered.
It works because I have a birthday coming up in August. So, hey, bro, it's not every day a guy like Eugene turns 56. Make with the money.
We just got to find out what embarrassing thing is going to come out with Dana White ahead of time, and that way, then just call him right then. Go, now's your time to have the Puncholi's party.
We could, or just proactively speaking, UFC, Dana White. You gotta, just this is. I'm telling you,
something's coming out, Dana. So
people be so flustered and confused.
Well, listen, I told Alexi this, and I told Nate this. I don't think John has heard this, and I think I'm going to have to be circumspect about this because I'll just give you a teaser, and I'll talk about it on the Show Stomper, which I'll record either tomorrow, like I said, or on Thursday. But I ran into a VP from Endeavor in New York, and had quite an interesting conversation about things related to the business, but it should be, I'll just preempt my little Lost Battalion segment. It's us. Anyway, enough of that.
So speaking about different places other than where people want to be, John, you're Alexander Gustaffson. UFC Brotherhoods. Daniel Cormier said that he'll never share the octagon with you again after your shameful behavior. Can you afford to wait until he retires before lobbying for the light heavyweight or heavyweight championship shots?
It's pretty crushing to have Daniel Cormier, the daddest man in the world, to tell you that he's disappointed in you. That's just got to be. It's like your dad coming up and I'm disappointed. That's gotta hurt. You can't recover from something like that.
Yeah, nope.
And that's Lucas Borden came up with that name. He deserves it. I think I coined the term "the baddest dad in the world." That didn't have quite the ring that the daddest man in the world had. But with Gustaffson, I find it. What's interesting is he's the one guy that everybody wanted to see rematch John Jones and Daniel Cormier, and he got completely cut out of any rematch. He never got a chance to fight him again, and the clock's ticking. I normally don't tell fighters just to take any fight, but this is the one time. The clock's ticking. His window of opportunity to get big money fights in the UFC is narrowing down. Even if he gets the UFC belt, it's going to be a tainted belt where he's not going to be considered a legitimate champion. So what I would do if I was him is I would take almost any fight as soon as I'm healthy and say, I want to fight and put on a big show, beat the crap out of whoever you fight, and then put a challenge out for Daniel Cormier. Daniel's not going to take it because he's going to be fighting Brock Lesnar probably, then book another fight before the end of the year and beat the heck out of that guy. But set it up that the last fight that Cormier can't retire without fighting you again.
Yeah. I mean, I think that in this instance, if you remember when Gustaffson had his moment of doubt and pain, we talked about that on what had been Knuckle Up at that point and said that the reality of it was the issue with him will be the head, and the Swedish listeners to the show were like, they all drove home in silence and were wondering if the guy had the head. We always talk about Brazilians having uncertain heads if they, in the face of adversity, not willing to dig down deep because they, fighting is part superstition, part skill. But in this instance, I called it. We didn't have any idea what was going to happen with Gustaffson, and he came back and found himself a man out of time. And I mean out of time in every single kind of conception of what it is that time does for you. Realistically, where's he going to go? He's watching guys dancing on tables in Ibiza. Who is he? He's yesterday's man. With Johnny Boney Joni on hiatus. Who? Where? Why? Nobody can. I mean, he's too dangerous to fight casually. He's too, he got fucked, and part of it was his own doing. And I think, what is it that Mr. Natural used to say? Don't let your meat loaf. And part of it was situational. You got to get back. You're a fighter. You write that on your tax returns. You get in there and you fight. It doesn't always have to serve your purposes. I mean, Donald Cerrone is fighting a crap fight coming up, but against Mike Perry, which I'm calling There Will Be Missed. But the reality of it is, he's not broke.
What about him going up against Stipe for like two guys that want the title shots but ain't going to get them anytime soon?
Oh yeah, you're going to pay to see
right.
that?
It's like, hey, this is like the real hardcores.
You're not
champion versus champion.
Yeah. You're not paying for that.
I'm having trouble with my camera, guys. So give me.
Yeah, I know. You're not paying for that. So anyway,
man.
Yeah.
So John,
yes.
Who is in your Legion of Doom?
Well, it's I can't name the person in it because I don't know who the person is that's doing this. But I don't know if you guys ever saw the documentary Hypernormalization, or the concept in Russia they have. First, there's that news story about that KGB agent that came out in the 70s that said that they had a plot to destroy America. There's a guy called that works for Putin called Vladislav Surkov. And the concept is that you make the news so untrustworthy, so bizarre, that people can't know what's fact and fiction. And there's someone in the UFC doing this because they're giving out interim belts and guaranteeing title shots. And the interim belts disappeared. You don't know what happened. And no one knows what's important now, what's not important. And so my member of the Legion of Doom is whoever it is, the Dr. Mabuse figure behind the scenes that's doing this, that's messing with our minds, that we do not know who's fighting who and who has a title shot, who doesn't, who should we be cheering for to get a title shot. The whole thing is a mess. It's so that's my Legion of Doom member, the mysterious man behind the scenes who took Joe Silva's spot and now has messed with all of our brains and we don't know who's fighting.
So does the Darren Till versus Tyron Woodley upcoming
how does a
championship fight, like, does that
plays
is that
right
what's
into
partially
it?
Inspiring this?
Partly, it's like but every time it happens, I can't believe it. It's like you give the guy an interim belt, Colby. He's supposed to be guaranteed the shot. He can't fight because he's not healthy after he just fought. So why would you have an interim fight when you know it's going to take him a few months to get ready for the next fight? Then the guy that failed to make weight, usually one of the requirements that you have to get a title shot, because it's serious business making weight, you're now putting him in a fight that if he doesn't make weight, it's not a title shot. That's just effing with our brains. That doesn't even make sense.
But one thing that doesn't make sense is the Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero, the alleged Juicehead battle of the ages. Like that's the
fight that really makes sense. Except it's not going to happen. They didn't book it. So they announced it, but apparently it's not made. And then the other one's Weidman Rockhold. Apparently is going to be made, but hasn't been made yet. It's
but those aren't the titles, right? So I guess
at this point, these guys are just printing up posters, man. Why don't we put, we could just print any fucking old thing up. Why not? Just print it up.
Yeah, Eugene, I didn't know you were fighting next week. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Hey, me and Francisco Chico Bueno, we're gonna go at it again. What do you mean again? Yeah, whatever.
You might be onto something. I wonder, wouldn't it be amazing if their matchmaking is booked by when they look at the mock-ups of the poster, which one looks best? Oh, that looks much better. Yoel Romero looks much better against this guy than that guy. Look at the dynamic there.
Things change all the time anyway. You fly it up the flagpole. Who's saluting? Well, maybe that's one we use.
Man, Eugene, who's in your Lost Battalion?
We are. That was my tip. I mean, I'm not throwing. Look, my daughter just turned 16. I gave her a water backpack so she could use when she runs for wrestling practice, and theater tickets. Total value somewhere south of $200. I got a guy who's laughing at me. I talked to the VP of not giving a shit at Endeavor. What are we talking about? Where are we? Why do we care? You know why we don't know the answers to those questions? Because we are Lost Battalionized. And I mean, it would be easy for me to say Shogun. It would easy, way too. But we already called that for Shogun. That's not news. That's not new news. It's old news. You know, half the people on the UFC Hamburg card. I mean, okay, I had a known associate that was on the card that I didn't realize. A guy who trains with Robert Pastuch, who used to train with Team Sorrel, and he demolished his opponent. It was pretty masterful, kind of nice. But I don't know, man. We're like guys who played Dungeons and Dragons. We're done. We're out there swinging by the woodpile. Like Travis Bickle's line in Taxi Driver. There's no reality to any of this.
Man,
I mean, seriously, we're getting excited about fake posters. Oh, Rockhold Weidman. Are you kidding me? The answer is blowing in the mist, my friend. The answer is blowing in the mist.
I was just gonna say I played Dungeons and Dragons, so we could do that. If
you know what, you could
he's like, probably, I'm down. I got blown the 6-sided dice.
I'm a 12th level wizard. Is that impressive?
Yeah, you see, the thing is, we could probably put together a crew to play that faster than we could put together a crew to do an MMA fantasy league.
Oh yeah, you probably. Yeah, I bet you it's easier for me to call people up to show up at my house to play Dungeons and Dragons than to come over and pitch in for a pay-per-view.
Yep. Yeah, no fucking doubt at all about that at all.
Man,
that's sad.
Thanks for joining us. Follow us on Twitter, Eugene S. Robinson, Lexi Old at Hey Not the Face, and Facebook MMA Pancholes. Please give us a thumbs up.
Pancholes, and a
Eugene,
thumbs up right there.
Leave comments on YouTube, StrongManiNation.com, YouTube, MMA Nation, iTunes. Visit Bloody Elbow. Buy 7 Secret Source Inspiration. Box Wilson, Black Duke, and Boonwell's Easy Way Out, wherever fine music is sold. And listen to Literal Podcast. And the ask is still open. Episodes past that have moments which inspire laughter, confusion, inspiration. Post in the comments. Timestamps, please. That would be a great help. Trying to figure out where these segments are so we can put it together on the reel. The winner gets a prize beyond prizes. Immediately follow the show. Be sure to check out If the Shoes Fit. Eugene, how do they do that?
Right at the link below. And I'm sorry we're talking so fast because I'm up in the studio. I got stuff to do, so we gotta get to it. Chop suey.
Well, we'll be back next week. And that's all. We don't know what we're going to talk about yet because the PR mistakes have yet to be made.